Hello and welcome back to our daily Africa Cup of Nations coverage. I'm James Vazian, and once again with me tonight are both Tando Sabia. Good evening, Tando. And good evening to you, Andreas Evagora as well. We're going through everything that's been going on the pitches tonight, starting with the results. Here is the latest from the last matches from the round of 16. Algeria beat DR Congo after a very tense fight, 1-0, and Ivory Coast have just trampled across Burkina Faso. The Elephants there getting a 3-0 result in the final game from tonight. Let's begin with the latest then. Ivory Coast having then just thrashed Burkina Faso to make their way into the quarterfinals with this after a very one-sided game in Marrakesh. The Elephants not needing to wait too long to break down the defence as Amad Diallo opened the score in the 20th minute before Yan Diomande doubled it 10 minutes later or so, and Diallo with the assist again. 19-year-old Bazumana Toure added in a third goal just before the final whistle. And easy one for the Ivory Coast. And it felt as though, Andreas, I'm going to come to you first. It was going to be easy for them as soon as they got that opening goal because they seemed very much in control and they proved to be it tonight.
I think so, yeah. Diallo and Diomande with the goals, they were really in control after that second goal. And I think control is the word compared to Nigeria, who just went all at it last night in an impressive way. I think Cote d'Ivoire were kind of 2-0. The game's ours. Nevertheless, they got the third goal. And it's a young team, the two players we mentioned, and that brilliant goal from Toure. That's my favourite goal of the tournament so far. He must have run 70 metres, and we all thought he was going to put it in the far post, as you're coached to do. But as a young player, he went on the inside. He plays for Hoffenheim, just 19 years old. He looks about 14, but he is 19. We did check, didn't we, before he came out. Fantastic talent. And we were just listening to some of the interviews after, and they're just kind of carefree, but also they've got their job. There's a lot of pressure on their shoulders, but they've got some great young talents. And I know everyone back in Cote d'Ivoire has got hopes of a repeat, which is very hard. It's very rare in this competition that a team wins back-to-back, but I think it's the first defending champion to actually even get to the quarterfinals.
Absolutely. The last ones were Egypt back in 2010.
Exactly, and that's when they were winning it every year, so that doesn't count.
And Egypt went on to win it. I don't know what that means for Ivory Coast. But as you mentioned, very much in control in there tonight, Tando. And you talked about some of the side of them seeming to not feel too much pressure. There's certainly less pressure than last time round. I mean, I know they're not back home, but as defending champions, there is that pressure there. But I think even above that, Tando, I think they're just so much more in control compared to their last time round, it was not the same Ivory Coast. What's happened?
It looks like the composition of the squad. They have a lot of depth, and I think everyone was expecting to see more or less the same of a similar squad to the champions that won last year. But he's completely changed the side, especially in the forwards. We all thought we were going to see the likes of Fofana, Crasso in the midfield. But no, he brings up these 19-year-olds. I mean, look at all the goal scorers tonight. You have Amad Diallo, who's 22, playing at Manchester United. Like Andreas mentioned, you have Bazumana Toure, who's 19 years old at Hoffenheim. And then you also have Yan Diomande, who's 19 years old as well, playing also in the Bundesliga. And so you can see this development of a new era where MS5 is kind of like playing around and creating more in the forward side. Defense seems to be quite solid, and so he's just putting it forward. Also using the midfield to create and give confidence to the young forwards. And I think that it's quite remarkable. If you looked at the game against Gabon, the disposition was completely different to what we saw today. The starting 11 was very different. But if you look, the secret is in the substitutes that he made. It's most of the substitutes or the starting lineup that he put in today's game. So I think he was preparing something as early on as the Gabon game. And that's what he did today. And clean sheet, very impressive performance, very beautiful football. I think also something that stood out was seeing Doué and how he performs. He was a centre-back tonight, but he's also good in the right wing, a wing-back, and also in the right-back position. And so he starts from behind, provides, goes through midfield, creates the chances, sends the cross over to Diallo, who then crosses it over to, I think it was Toure, and then who shoots it into the net. But also what was nice is the quick play that happened in the creation of that game, because it goes past Kessié, and it's not that it went past him, he let it go past him. So they're playing very entertaining football, and it's really beautiful to watch, but they're also very organized, as Andreas said. So it's brilliant football to watch. Yeah, so shout out to whatever MS5 is doing, because it's really good.
And it's a work in progress in a way, with them being all so new, and it clearly is working there. They've got Egypt to face next. Is there a word that we can say for, Burkina Faso who lost terribly tonight. I mean, they've been far before. Is there much that we can retain from what they're going to get tonight? They didn't get much of a chance.
They were never in the races. I think the round of 16 is a success for them. Not a huge success, but that's what they wouldn't have expected much more, put it that way. So I think they'll be relatively happy with how things have gone. They don't have the resources of Côte d'Ivoire. It would have been a huge surprise if they'd have gone through. So it's certainly not a disaster. It's no shame for them to go out in the round of 16.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the today's earlier game that was taking place in Rabat. That was Algeria, who won a very, very tight battle with the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Desert Foxes scoring in the 119th minute, this avoiding penalty shootout that was looming there to make it through. Let's go to Selina Sykes, who was at the game for us. Selina, Algeria very much in need of those fresh legs to find the net there today.
That's right. You put it exactly how I was going to, James. It was fresh legs that made all the difference for Algeria in extra time. Super subs getting that all one in crucial goal. Adil Boulbina with that spectacular shot in the 119th minute, with Ramzan Zarouki getting the assist. Both of them had literally both come on just minutes beforehand to get that crucial goal for Algeria. Boulbina outpacing a tired-looking Aaron Wan-Bissaka before getting that unstoppable shot into the back of the net. There was no way that the keeper was getting that one, sending the Algerian fans in the stadium into absolutely wild celebrations of joy, though obviously a very hard one to digest for DR Congo fans who were on the edge of their seats until the very last moments. I think most people thought it was heading to penalties. So that's another clean sheet for Algeria and Luka Zidane, though DR Congo heading home. Sad to say, because alongside Algeria, they probably have one of the best fan bases here in Morocco. I think we could take a listen now to both sets of fans after that match.
It was a very difficult game. We faced a very disciplined team of the Congo, which gave us little space. But today we proved to be a major team. We killed the game, the substitute did the job, and Boulbina cleaned the nets.
Il a fait la différence. Boulbina, il a nettoyé la lucarne.
Now we must prepare for Nigeria.
Viva l'Algérie! 1, 2, 3! Viva l'Algérie!
And after that, all we're waiting for is facing Morocco in the semi-final. I think we're ready. We just need to be a bit more offensive, and it should be good.
That's the law of football. It happens. One can win, one can lose. And I know that we will soon make more efforts. And I'm very proud of being from DR Congo.
Some fans there speaking to our team on the grounds. Tando, the supporters there pretty much said it all in a way. I mean, Algeria have got Morocco coming up next. I mean, a win tonight, but there were actually no shots on target until the 77th minute. Sorry, I've got to start with something, is that last night I said that this was going to be one of the most entertaining fixtures of the game. I was completely wrong on that.
I think that happens. They equaled each other out. And when you have a 50-50 like this, it's either going to be very entertaining or it's going to be very boring. And that's what happened today. But looking at DRC, they come on with 5 defenders, the same era, a similar era that Coach Hugo Bruce did. You come in defensively, there's not going to be much creativity. And that's what happened to the DRC side. But they held it down for a solid 90 minutes and going into the additional time or even into the extra time. But I do think that Algeria were lucky, especially considering how many players they're losing to injuries. They lost Amin Gouiri before the tournament even began. He was the striker. He was the main man, the player to look out for the Algerians. And he's gone with a shoulder operation just months before the African Cup of Nations. 3 months on rehab, and so that was a dead one. They made things work. They built the game around the strikers that they have right now. And then in the middle of the tournament, during the group stages, then you lose a midfielder in Samir Shurgi, and then you lose a defender in Jawen Hajem. And you have to continue finding a way. And these were regular starters since the group stages. So I think them making it work with the players that they're losing just shows that they have depth and that they probably also are more capable than they think. And so just a huge shout out. I also want to take back my words that I said, I think last week. I said that Zidane isn't that strong. He might be relying on defense. No, I'm eating my words. He made quite a few stops tonight where I was like, okay, he's actually quite impressive. He's fearless. And so I think that's exactly what they need. So defensively, Algeria's more stronger than I actually thought. So perhaps in the rest of the competition, keep it just as tight and we'll see how that unfolds.
Yeah, there's Benacer who also walked out tonight. We'll have to see how he's doing for the next ones. Zidane's not the only one who was strong in goal tonight. Passy was particularly good for DR Congo. Obviously couldn't let in the final shot, which was an absolute stunner from Algeria. But DR Congo, a bit of a shame to see them in a way exit so early, in the sense that, I mean, this was we've seen the round of 16 put some big teams go against each other, but DR Congo could have gone pretty far down. And I mean, what do you retain from their performance overall?
Yeah, you've got to take your chances at this level. It's an old cliche, but it's true. In the first half, Bakambu had a chance. He was wide. The angle was completely against him. He had a teammate in the middle and went for the shot, and it was saved. That was probably their best chance. At half time, the combined XG, for XG fans out there, 0.15. So basically, there was no chances. It didn't get much better. But for the scorer, that was an absolutely brilliant hit. He's had a really good season for Adil Boulbina, and just before the recent Arab Cup, an Algerian colleague of mine was saying, look out for this kid. He's gone a little bit under the radar. Not now. That will make him a national hero. It was a superb hit. It really was. And the question is now, will he keep his place for the next round? Probably not, but he's one to look out for. A really brilliant young talent. Next
round means Nigeria. Just a quick words on how you can see perhaps Algeria taking on Nigeria. That's a tough fixture. Of course, we know they've got a rough. We're taking a look at the roads that they've got to go to the final. But as fans were saying, after that, it's Morocco possibly as well. We were saying, Algeria haven't really been tested, but tonight they definitely have. Just a quick words to Tando. Do you think that this has given them confidence going forward, and perhaps they are showing their full strength now?
Yeah, they seem like a solid side. I just think they need to polish it in finishing. That's where they lacked in this game. If we were speaking for DRC, I'd say the same thing.
Because they can bring the ball up is all right,
Exactly.
but in front of goal, there were so many opportunities, wasted opportunities, and they turned the game around later on and went ahead of DR Congo, who actually managed to attack a little bit more. But indeed, it's a matter of finishing up front.
And keep it in the 90 as well. If you're going to have an opponent like Nigeria, you're not going to have 119 minutes to come and score the first goal. Keep it in the 90, keep it tidy. Every chance that you have, use it. Mahrez kind of also fell by the wayside tonight. I don't know what was happening, but I definitely think that they do have that lacking in the players that they've lost. I think it threw them off a little bit, and so they're going to have to find a way to make amends for it. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult, especially if it's the Nigeria side that we saw last night. Defensively, like I said, if the Algerian defense is solid, they need to be even 10 times better against Nigerian forwards and just keep composed. It's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for Zidane in that game against Nigeria. I'm excited. I can't wait to see that one. I think it's going to be a watcher.
And he had his dad watching from the stands tonight as well. Super Eagles, who have a lot of energy in there, a lot of fresh legs in there, a lot of speed. So indeed, it's going to be a tough one. But it's bound to be exciting as well. Well, the round of 16 is over. Let's just remind ourselves of the results from the past days. Let's take a look now at the knockout round, beginning with a statement win from Senegal, who were led but came back to oust Sudan. Mali ousted Tunisia. And if you missed it, well, you didn't miss too much except for the penalty shootout. Morocco struggled to get past Tanzania with Cameroon, who were very much the better side in their 2-1 win against South Africa. Egypt's result isn't all it seems. They were pushed into extra time by Benin, but they make it through. However, Nigeria showed their strength with the biggest result, as we mentioned last night, 4-0, the biggest result so far, that coming against Mozambique. And before we get into the fixtures to come, I've asked both of you to tell me a bit about some of the stars who've shone for you. But we're first just going to go to Selena, who's also going to tell us from her experience over in Morocco. Who have you seen in the flesh really come alive in the stadiums over there, Selena?
Well, yes, James, I'm going to base my decisions on the teams I've seen most here in Rabat, and that's obviously starting with the hosts, Morocco, who've played all their games here in the Moroccan capital, and I've decided to choose Ibrahim Diaz with 4 goals for the Atlas Lions. He's been remarkable so far. He gets a very little game time back at Real Madrid, but he's really taken a starring role here with Morocco. 4 goals, as I said. It's remarkable to think he only started playing with the team in March last year after switching his allegiances from Spain to Morocco, and he's already such an integral part of this side. A lot of creativity and a lot of goals, including that most decisive one, getting them through to the quarterfinals against Tanzania. Next, we've seen all of Algeria's games, so not so much a star, but a rising star, shall we say, in Ibrahim Maza, who has turned a lot of heads here in Rabat among Algerian fans. Bayer Leverkusen attacking a midfielder who is making his name for himself at just 20 years old. He's got 2 goals and an assist so far for Algeria. Very creative player, a lot of dribbling on the pitch. He's an exciting one to watch, and I hear James at Barcelona might be interested for him, so watch this space.
Oh, the Africa Cup of Nations is definitely a spot where where teams get some good impressions, and as in all international tournaments, things can happen after that. There's a window around the corner as well. Let's bring the discussion here to the studio. In defence, you both told me then Arsène Kouassi in defence for you, Andreas, and Edmond Tapsoba, 2 Burkina Faso defenders. Yet tonight they couldn't hold it up, but they've impressed you nevertheless.
That was a coincidence, right? We didn't exchange notes before.
But it happens. But you still feel that, I mean, they held it up throughout the tournaments.
Yeah, they did what needed to be done for their respective sides. I think even coming into the tournament, Tapsoba was the guy to look out for, and I think he held up his team, and not single-handedly. But I do think that tonight was a little bit unfortunate facing the champions with an attacking side, very strong like Ivory Coast. But that's the biggest test, and that shows then where you're lacking and where you're found wanting. I think it was even in one of the goals, Tapsoba was there right next to the attacker, and it was like, okay, this is a tough one. And also, a strong defender can only do so much when you're built. It's this team sport. So I do think it was a little bit unfortunate for him, but I do still think that in the league football or even in the next African Cup of Nations, we can expect a little bit more from him.
Indeed, and you've put, so for midfield, Samir Shergi, who's injured for Algeria, unfortunately. But Andres, Idrissa Gueye for Senegal, who can lead the team forwards, certainly.
I think so. I mean, he's at the back end of his career. My first choice, Kouassi, is very much at the start of his career. He really just got into the national team this year. Idrissa Gueye came in to this tournament with under a bit of a cloud. Remember, he slapped a teammate at Old Trafford, got a 3-match ban, hasn't played much. He apologised, but he has been basically what he's been doing the last 10 years: controlled midfield, good passing, tackling. And he's been talking about going to the World Cup, and he wants to emulate Morocco. He says Senegal can go all the way. He's a man who really does believe in Senegal. He's a very patriotic man, and I think he's had a really good tournament. You know, he's not going to make too many headlines, but he really has had an excellent tournament at 36 years old. He's played every minute, and I expect that to go on.
So important.
All the way.
I mean, it makes sense for him to be in there if
Absolutely,
he's got that experience in there as well. Now for the forwards, let's just want to show you the top goal scorers that we've got so far in the tournament. If we can bring up the results that we've got midway through of the best forwards, well, the biggest goal scorers in the tournament so far. Here we have them then. We've got Brahim Diaz up there with 4 goals, no assists for him. And Andres, you had Ademola Lookman as your favourite forward. Well, he's up there with not just 3 goals, but 4 assists as well. How important he is for Nigeria and just for the attack. Just goes to show what he's got there. And on your side, Tando Boulbina, no surprise, and we're fresh off the game and clearly looking forward to seeing more goals coming through. But there's just an idea to see. Of course, we've got 2 of them underneath Amad Diallo, Victor Osimhen, tied on 3 goals each, and the top goal scorers there. I'm sure some might just wake up a little bit. I don't know what you guys think about perhaps Mohamed Salah. Perhaps Riyad Mahrez might get a few more goals to his name.
Potentially, but just to speak about El Kabi and the way that he's performed. I mean, he's playing in Greece, in Olympiacos, but the way that he's shone in this AFCON, you really think he's somewhere in France, like in Marseille, in a slightly more competitive league, or maybe even in England in the Premier League, because of the way that he marshals the attack for the Moroccan side. Not necessarily marshalling, actually, how he shines when it's needed. So I do just want to make a notice to El Kabi, but also taking it back to Ademola Lookman and the significance. I mean, it's in the numbers. There's no other player who has that much. 3 goals, 4 assists, really doing what needs to be done for Nigeria. And even in the post-match or today in press conferences, or I don't think it was a press conference, but it was an interview after training, he excused Victor Osimhen, saying that there's nothing wrong in the change rooms. That's my brother, and it's normal to have tension during the game. And so just even in his character, that makes him such a standout player. So character on the field, performing, delivery. Ademola Lookman, he's the guy.
He's the guy.
Yeah. And the other reason I picked Lookman, because he had no form coming into this tournament, really. He's had a terrible season at Atalanta. He was sort of on a mini strike at the start of the season. He wanted to move to Inter Milan. It didn't happen. But he's a former African Player of the Year. I mean, we know his quality, and he had a brilliant year in the Champions League and the Europa League. We know he can perform at the very top level. But I picked him because I think it was not a big surprise, but perhaps he wasn't the one player we were looking out for. He's been unplayable at times, Lookman, and he's one player that if you're a defender, you just don't want to face him.
No, you don't.
I think if there's one thing that we've noticed about this Nigerian side is that in their respective leagues, these players don't necessarily stand out that much. Victor Osimhen, he stands out, yes, but he's not signed to, like I said, a little bit more competitive league, like in the Premier League, or he's not even in La Liga, somewhere where he would shine really well. But when they come to Nigeria as a national side, these guys outshine their opponents, and it's something worth studying. Really.
It's incredible, yeah, what you can see, because and when you see them up close, they're just so fast, and there's something going on in that team.
Definitely.
Some reason they didn't manage to make it through last time round, but who knows what will happen here. Let's take a look at the fixtures that has come. The 4 fixtures in these quarter-finals. The first games will be Mali versus Senegal and Cameroon versus Morocco. Those 2 games taking place on Friday. After that, it's on Saturday, Egypt, Ivory Coast and Algeria versus Nigeria, as mentioned there. The 2 sides of the table showing the route to the finals that each team will be trying to take, hoping to lift the trophy. And one of the first things that stands out to me looking at this table here is that there are no small teams, no surprises coming into this coming into this here. Last time round when we were here, we still had Angola, who have been knocked out. We had Cape Verde, who didn't qualify. We had Guinea as well, same situation. What does this mean for African football? Is there a change happening? Do we have like an elite, some teams really moving apart, like a top tier compared to the others? What's going on?
I think so. I think maybe last time out was an aberration. We haven't had any surprises. We haven't really come close to any surprises. I think there is an elite. The 8 teams that are through, you can add Tunisia, you can add South Africa, of course. And the country we haven't talked about at all is Ghana, who are going to the World Cup. And, they've got a huge tradition in African football. But that group of 11 countries, I think they are better than the rest. Look, every continent has its powerhouses, and those have got stronger in general. They maybe have used their resources better coaching. They got the better players, and when the better players are playing at the higher level, as we've talked about, that only helps. So there is definitely a gap, I think, between those 10, 11 and the rest.
Is this a good thing, though? Because part of the fun in AFCON is, we say that anything can happen. And there have been things happening, and some of these teams did get through a bit more scathed than others. But is this a good thing in general that we're seeing this upper and lower tier happening on the continents?
I don't necessarily think it's a good thing, but if we look at the calendar and the things that have been happening and what is coming up compared to the last edition of the African Cup of Nations, I think that's what makes the difference. Last time around, there wasn't a World Cup to prepare for. Last time around, some teams weren't bleak about not qualifying and so putting their energy into the African Cup of Nations. Nigeria in question. So they're going to give it their all because this is their last saving grace until the next African Cup of Nations while everyone prepares for the World Cup next year. Some other countries have put in a lot more money, like you said, Andreas, more budget into their structures, into the federations, into recruiting players, and it's evident in the selections. Look at the Bafana side. There were a couple of changes that were made, but there's not a lot who are based abroad. There's not a lot where you'd see Hugo Bruce making a few changes where you'd see a 19-year-old or a 22-year-old who's playing in Greece or even in Spain. And so you do see that when also geographically speaking, it's more of Northern and Western Africa. And that's where the export goes into the more competitive leagues. And so when I say competition, yes, we're speaking about resources, but we're also speaking about experience and training, where in terms of tactics, they're getting a whole lot more exposure to training facilities, to the coaches, to competition as well. And so if your competition is way more advanced, it only brings you up so that even if you're 50% as good as your competition, by the time you come back to the continental football, you're actually 80% better because the tactics are on another level. So when they come to training, there doesn't have to be this whole exchange of this is a route one or this is a kind of tactics. And I'm not disrespecting any of the other sides who didn't make it. I'm not saying that's why they didn't make it, but these things do come into play and factor in. And so that north-south divide is starting to factor in. A lot more resources need to be put into these respective federations in terms of recruitment, in terms of exposure for their players. We're seeing it starting a little bit with South Africa. We see it with some other countries as well. I speak for South Africa because it's the country that I've been focusing on a little bit more. We see the export of, like we said, Mbegazeli Mbogazi, who just went to MLS. We see Lyle Foster, who's based in the Premier League. So you do see that the export also allows for a little bit more room domestically for new players to come in. And so it's kind of like a conveyor belt. And if you keep that flowing, then it works well. North and West Africa, it's a lot faster. And so you're getting a lot more talent coming in. And so there's more to recruit from. I mean, just looking at Toure and looking at Diallo, looking at these players, they weren't necessarily selected recently. You know, they were selected recently. MS5 brought them up just this year or just before qualifiers. In their respective leagues, they've got like 14 appearances. So you can see that the conveyor belt is moving very fast, and so it's yielding very good results for these sides. And so it's definitely something on the continent that needs to be looked into. Who's going to be drawing the funds for who? It's on the respective federations, but it's definitely something that needs to be worked on.
I agree with that. There's one important point that really just follows from that is the scouting, because scouting now is this global network. And if you're a scout at a big club, are you going to go to Côte d'Ivoire or Senegal, or would you go to Zambia, or are you going to go to Ethiopia? Let's be honest, you're going to go to where you feel there's a pool of talent, and perhaps part of Africa is being left behind, and that's something that's got to be looked at.
And this might all bring a bit more respect from outside for the tournaments as well. Something that hasn't at times been what it should be, of course, and something we'd all love discussing about here every evening on every match day. We're going to leave it there for now, but we'll be back, of course, at the weekend on Friday after the first set of quarterfinals. Join us again on Friday evening for the debrief of everything going over in Morocco, and have a good rest of the week and see you then. Bye-bye.